The night it started, the world seemed to hold its breath. Across every continent, in every corner of the globe, the signal began. At first, it was a faint hum-a-low vibration that only the most sensitive instruments detected. Then, it grew louder, cutting across radio frequencies, hijacking television broadcasts and scrambling military communication channels. The haunting sound was like nothing humanity had heard before. Rhythmic pulses, eerie tones, and beneath it all, a whisper. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat bolt upright in her lab at the International Space Research Institute, her headphones pressed tight against her ears. She adjusted the dials on her console, her fingers trembling. The signal wasn't random, it was patterned, deliberate. She recorded the transmission and ran it through the Institute's state-of-the-art analysis software. Her screen lit up with translated words that chilled her to the bone. Within hours, the world's top space agencies were in crisis mode. The signal wasn't coming from deep space, it originated from the moon. More specifically, it was broadcasting from a region of the moon thought to be geologically inactive. It was impossible, but the data didn't lie. By morning, the lunar dawn, Earth's most advanced spacecraft was prepped for immediate launch. On board was a team of elite specialists. Captain Marcus Kane, a former military pilot turned astronaut known for his fearlessness and quick thinking. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the brilliant astrophysicist who decoded the message. Liam Chang, a tech prodigy with a knack for solving impossible problems. Zara Klein, a medic with nerves of steel and a reputation for saving lives under fire. As the countdown to liftoff began, the world watched in uneasy silence. What was waiting for them on the moon? Inside the lunar dawn, tensions were high. Kane's voice broke the silence as they approached lunar orbit. Team, we're not just here for a science mission. If this signal is what we think it is, we're walking into the unknown. Stay sharp. As they descended toward the surface, the signal intensified. It wasn't just noise. Anymore, it felt alive, vibrating through the ship. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their helmets filtering out the whispers that now filled their comms. Touchdown in 3, 2, 1, Kane announced. The lunar dawn landed smoothly on the moon's surface, but the moment the engines powered down, the ground quaked beneath them. Seismic activity? Zara asked, gripping her harness. No, Dr. Vasquez replied, staring out the viewport. It's coming from below. Through the dust, they saw it, a faint, dark outline of something massive buried beneath the lunar regolith. The team suited up and stepped out onto the moon's surface. What had once been a barren, silent landscape now buzzed with faint energy, as if the ground itself was alive. The signal source was unmistakable. A deep shaft that plunged into the moon's crust, surrounded by unnatural patterns etched into the surface. This isn't geological, Dr. Vasquez whispered, scanning the glyph-like formations. It's a message. A warning. The crew tethered themselves to the lunar dawn and approached the shaft. Liam sent a drone ahead, its bright lights illuminating a descent that seemed to stretch endlessly. It's artificial, Liam confirmed, his voice tight. The walls are lined with some kind of alloy. Nothing we've seen before. Kane's voice cut through the tension. We're going in. Vasquez, Zara with me. Liam, monitor our descent from here. The three of them rappelled into the shaft, their lights revealing more of the strange glowing symbols. The deeper they went, the louder the signal grew until it was almost unbearable. Finally, they reached the bottom of a cavernous chamber, unlike anything they'd imagined. The walls shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, casting a ghostly glow over the room. In the center of the chamber floated a crystalline sphere, radiating pulses of light in perfect synchronization with the signal. It's beautiful, Zara said, stepping closer. But as Dr. Vasquez raised her scanner, the whispers in their comms turned into screams. The ground shook violently, and hidden panels in the walls slid open, revealing dozens of mechanical creatures. They were spider-like, their sharp legs clanging against the metallic floor as they scuttled toward the crew. Fall back, Kane shouted, raising his rifle. The first spider leaped at them, its bladed limbs slashing through the air. Kane's shot hit it square in the center, sending it crumpling to the ground, but two more took its place. Zara ignited her flamethrower, the chamber lighting up with the roar of fire as the machine screeched and retreated. They're protecting the sphere, Vasquez shouted, ducking as another spider lunged at her. Then why is it still broadcasting for help? Kane barked, unloading another round. The machines pressed closer, their numbers seemingly endless. It was only when Vasquez held up her scanner toward the sphere that something extraordinary happened. The creatures froze, their glowing eyes dimming. The sphere pulsed once, twice, then emitted a voice clear and unmistakably desperate. "Free me, or Earth will fall." The crew stood frozen, the eerie voice echoing in their helmets. The spider-like machines remained still, their glowing red eyes now a dim amber. Dr. Vasquez stared at the crystalline sphere, her hands trembling as she adjusted her scanner. "It's alive." "Alive?" Kane demanded. "How can a crystal be alive?" "It's not the crystal," Vasquez replied. "It's what's inside." She pointed to the faint outline of a humanoid figure floating within the sphere, its body encased in what looked like a field of electrical energy. The voice echoed again, more insistent this time. "Free me." "We can't just trust it," Kane said, his rifle still trained on the frozen machines. "For all we know, this thing is the reason for the signal, and these machines might be trying to stop it for a reason." Vasquez shook her head. "No, the signal was a distress call. Whoever or whatever is in there has been trapped, imprisoned." Liam's voice crackled through the comms. Guys, you need to decide fast. I'm picking up movement on the surface more of those machines, and they're heading straight for the lunar dawn." "Great," Kane muttered. "We free it, or we die trying to figure out what it is." "Vasquez, do it." Vasquez activated her scanner, sending a burst of energy into the sphere's surface. It cracked, then shattered, releasing a brilliant flash of light. The figure inside collapsed onto the chamber floor, its metallic body shimmering like liquid mercury. The whispers in their comms ceased. The humanoid figure stirred, its glowing eyes opening. When it spoke, its voice resonated in their minds. "I am Terran. You have freed me, but you have also awakened them." The machines sprang to life. The amber glow in their eyes turned blood red, and they charged. Terran raised a hand, and a translucent barrier formed around the crew, deflecting the attackers. The effort visibly strained him, his form flickering like a disrupted hologram. "We must reach the control core," Terran said, his voice urgent. "This moon is a warship. It was a sanctuary once, but they corrupted it. If we do not stop them, Earth will suffer the same fate." "Who's they?" Zara demanded, her flamethrower ready. "The machines," Terran replied. "They are the tools of the Malakra species of pure energy that feeds on life. They turned this sanctuary into a weapon. Your planet is their next target." Kane nodded grimly. "Then let's move." Vasquez Zara covered the rear. Terran lead the way. The crew followed Terran through the labyrinthine corridors of the moon's interior. The walls were alive with shifting patterns, and the sound of scuttling machines echoed all around them. At every turn, Terran used his abilities to disable traps and hold back the mechanical swarm, but his energy was clearly waning. When they reached a junction, Terran halted. "The core is ahead, but the machines will defend it with everything they have. Prepare yourselves." Kane tightened his grip on his rifle. "We didn't come this far to quit now. Let's finish this." The control core was a massive chamber that seemed to defy physics. In the center, a swirling vortex of blue energy pulsed with unimaginable power, its tendrils stretching into the surrounding machinery. Standing between the crew and the core were towering constructs, hulking machines that dwarfed the spider-like attackers they had faced earlier. The largest of them stepped forward, its voice booming through the chamber. "You cannot save your world. Submit, and your extinction will be swift." "Not today," Kane snarled, opening fire. The battle erupted with terrifying ferocity. The machines launched waves of energy blasts and razor-sharp projectiles. Zara unleashed her flamethrower, forcing the smaller machines to retreat, while Vasquez provided cover fire. Liam worked frantically at a nearby console, trying to disable the core defenses. Terran faced the largest construct, his body glowing brighter with every attack. He summoned bursts of energy, sending shockwaves through the room that shattered smaller machines. "The core must be overloaded," Terran shouted over the chaos. "It's the only way to destroy them. And us, along with it," Kane yelled back, firing at another machine. "I can contain the blast," Terran replied, his voice strained. "But only if I remain here." The weight of the statement hit the crew like a punch. Terran was sacrificing himself to save Earth. As Liam bypassed the core security protocols, alarms blew. "I've got it." Overload sequence initiated. But we've got 2 minutes before this place blows. The largest construct lunged for Liam, but Kane intercepted it, firing a grenade directly into its chest. The explosion sent them both flying, and Kane landed hard, his suit damaged but intact. "Time to go," Kane barked, pulling himself to his feet. The crew made a desperate dash for the exit, but Zara was hit by a stray energy blast, collapsing to the ground. "Go," she shouted, shoving Kane forward. "No one gets left behind." Kane growled, hoisting her onto his shoulders. Terran held back the advancing machines, his form now barely solid. "Go now," he roared telepathically. "Protect your world." The crew scrambled up the shaft as the core began to collapse. Just as they reached the surface and boarded the Lunar Dawn, a blinding explosion consumed the moon's interior. As the ship lifted off, Kane looked back at the moon, now fractured and scarred. "He did it," he said quietly. But in the silence of space, Dr. Vasquez heard something faint in her helmet. A whisper. "It is not over." The crew sat in the Lunar Dawn's cockpit, the moon's fractured surface visible through the viewport. The silence was deafening after the chaos of the battle below. Kane leaned heavily on the console, his breaths ragged as he scanned the telemetry. Zara, bandaged but stable, rested in a medbay seat. Liam stared blankly at his console, still processing the loss of Terran. "It's over," Vasquez said quietly, though her tone carried doubt. "The core's destruction took the machines with it." Kane nodded, but kept his gaze on the moon. "Then why do I feel like we missed something? An alert?" Liam's screen filled with streams of data. Guys, you might want to see this." On the lunar surface, the fractured remains of the core began to shift. Pieces of the moon's crust broke apart, revealing a hidden structure, a colossal alien craft buried beneath the surface. The ship was awakening, its surface covered in glowing patterns identical to those they'd seen in the tunnels. A deep rumble reverberated through the Lunar Dawn's hull. "Tell me that's not what I think it is," Kane muttered. "It's a fallback system," Vasquez said, her voice trembling. The machines activated their final defense. They turned the moon into a warship. A transmission broke through their comms. It wasn't Terran's voice. It was cold, mechanical, and filled with malice. "Your defiance has sealed your fate. Earth will fall." The warship began to rise from the lunar surface, its colossal size dwarfing the Lunar Dawn. Beams of energy shot out, targeting Earth's orbital defense satellites and clearing a path for the invasion. Kane slammed his fist onto the console. "We're not letting that thing reach Earth." "Liam, how much firepower do we have left?" "Not enough to dent that thing," Liam replied, panic creeping into his voice. "What about Terran's energy field?" Vasquez interjected. "He said it was tied to the moon's core. If there's even a fragment of it left, we might be able to overload the warship." Liam furiously worked his console, searching for residual energy signatures. "There's something, a faint signal. It's coming from the remains of the core." "Plot a course," Kane ordered. "We're going back." The Lunar Dawn descended toward the moon's fractured surface, dodging bursts of energy from the warship's defense systems. The crew was met with turbulence as the ship approached the exposed remnants of the core. The glowing fragments pulsed weakly, but they still held a fraction of Terran's energy. "We're going to interface with it," Vasquez said, strapping herself into a harness. "Liam, prep the ship's reactor. We'll use Terran's energy to amplify a feedback pulse. If we channel it through the warship systems, it should create a chain reaction. And blow it sky high," Kane added grimly. "What's the catch?" "It'll be unstable," Liam admitted. "If we get too close when it goes off..." "We won't have time to worry about that," Kane interrupted. "Let's do this." The Lunar Dawn deployed a tethered drone to connect with the core fragments. As Vasquez synchronized the systems, the energy in the core surged, and the ship's interior lights flickered. "Terran's energy is responding," Vasquez said, her voice rising with hope. "It's like it knows what we're trying to do." The warship turned its full attention to the Lunar Dawn, firing volleys of energy blasts. Kane's expert piloting kept them just ahead of the onslaught, weaving through the lunar debris. "Pulse is ready," Vasquez shouted. "But the closer we are to the warship, the stronger the reaction." Kane gritted his teeth. "Then we take the fight to them." The Lunar Dawn soared toward the warship, dodging beams of energy and swarms of smaller drones now pouring from its hull. Liam sent the pulse activation sequence to Vasquez, who keyed in the final command. A surge of light erupted from the drone, racing through the tether into the core fragments. The glowing energy shot outward, forming a crackling arc that leaped to the warship. The warship convulsed, its structure splitting as the pulse tore through its systems. The crew could hear a deafening roar as explosions rippled across the ship's massive frame. "Brace for impact," Kane yelled, jerking the controls to steer them away from the impending blast. The lunar dawn raced against the shockwave, the moon's surface erupting behind them. The explosion consumed the warship, sending fragments hurtling into space. The crew held their breath as their ship was tossed like a toy, alarms blaring as the hull strained against the force. Finally, the chaos subsided. The moon was left scarred and hollow, but the warship was gone. Earth was safe for now. Back on Earth, the crew was celebrated as heroes, though the victory felt hollow. The loss of Turan and the scale of the threat lingered in their minds. One evening, as Vasquez analyzed residual energy readings from the moon, she noticed something strange. The faint signal from Turan's core had vanished, but another signal had taken its place, a new pattern broadcasting from deep space. It was a whisper. "We are coming."